Thank you, Brian. Okay, so I've been on Teams for about 2 years now, and I've been on OneNote for my delivery for about 4 or 5 years now. So the journey that I've been on started about 5 years ago, when I was probably an earlier adopter within Glow of using OneNote to store all my learning and teaching and delivering my lessons through that medium. Then when Teams came on board, maybe 2 to 3 years ago, I moved my stuff onto Teams, but kept the OneNote scenario, which I'll explain to you as we go through this. So yeah, I've been doing it for, depending on which part of it you want, 5 years or 2 years. So that part of it, in moving to delivering from home, was very straightforward for me. The issue that you would have is that teaching from home, when your kids are in school, is a very weird and very different experience altogether. So I'm from Queen Anne High School, and Queen Anne High School is a Microsoft Showcase school, and we use Glow, Teams, OneNote. I wouldn't say exclusively, but that is where we're heading within school. And as we approached lockdown, when we sort of knew that this was coming at us, we very quickly got a lot of training put in place, and a lot of our teachers took up Teams, and it was the biggest uplift we've ever seen in any tech within our school. So that's just a little bit of background there for you. So this is Queen Anne High School, and as I say, we are a showcase school. Now, I'm not going to talk to these, Brian, don't worry, but I've put them in there because we are a showcase school. I think these slides will be available for anybody to go back and have a look over, but establishing the digital pedagogy is very important. Now, this has been scalped from Microsoft. This was a Microsoft piece of learning that I did for myself. So I'm not, as I say, going to spend time, but there are 3 slides that take you through getting yourself prepared for online teaching, whether it's peer-to-peer or classes or whatever else. So this is all here for you. I'm not going to spend too much time on this one either. This is the same slide as last time, Brian. But again, I think the important things here are to adhere to your LEA and your school policies whenever you're doing anything like that. And just be aware of what the skill set is of your own students. In terms of practicalities, when we are teaching from home on anything, whether it's the kids at home as well, or we are beaming into this classroom, I think one of the important things would be just be aware of what's on your screen. If you're sharing your screen, close your emails, for example, your personal emails. The kids really don't need to be seeing that at all. So if you had a little look at my image as I came up there, this is what the kids would see if I am beaming in from home. So what I've done is I've sanitized my background a little bit. It was a heck of a lot more cluttered than that, so I've tidied it up and I've made it look a little more presentable. That was absolutely deliberate. I've got a good relationship with all my senior classes, so they know the type of thing that I like and what I'm into, my photography. So when this image comes up with me sitting in front of it, there's nothing there that's of a real personal. There's no family pictures up. These are not family members. So, you know, just be careful about what's in your background when you're going into school. Another thing to be aware of is delivering a lesson from home is not the same as in the class. There's a lot of differences, and I think you need to understand what is meant by synchronous and asynchronous delivery when we're doing this sort of thing. Obviously, when I'm in school at home, as Claire was when we were beaming into the classroom, then this was synchronous learning as opposed to the alternative, which is asynchronous learning. So again, I'm not going to labour that. I'm not going to labour this. This is here just for information purposes for you. However, delivering from home when pupils are in school, this is my desk and this is what my class looks like. And yes, I've deliberately bubbled out my senior pupils, even though one of them has given me the big thumbs up there. So when I was at home, again, like Claire, I was isolating at home. My class were in, my senior class were in, and I had prepped a colleague to go to my desk. I made him part of my team. So when he went in, he could log on to the team and he could show up on the board as you're seeing there. He could see it on his screen and the pupils could as well on their screen. Again, as with what we're being asked to do by Brian, which was we were asking the pupils to switch their mics off and switch their cameras off, because that starts to eat up broadband. And if you're in a school whose broadband is limited, that is a biggie for us. So we had the kids shut off their screens. You can see that there's a pupil there. And she's got her own iPad, so she had full access to everything.
It does.
Somebody coming in there? Okay, okay. So, delivering from home. When I started off my lesson, just like Education Scotland does, I have this little screen that I start to roll just as the kids are coming in, everybody's getting ready. I've got a little screen that rolls, and this is what it looks like. It's a wee welcome screen. So when I'm presenting as I was to my higher engineering class, this is what they would see. And this is me encouraging them to switch their mics off, turn their cameras off, and activate the conversation chat. So I've updated this one now, so it looks like the one that we will all be using at this moment in time. And I've got my colleague there as well, who's in the classroom, and he's able to manage this sort of, we'll call it the behavioural aspect of it all, getting the kids chivied along to get themselves on, because that's a really important aspect of all this as well. As Claire said, that like her, I'm delivering all my lessons through Teams. And so this is the screen, and you'll notice from the left-hand side of that, there's a general channel, a forums channel, and a lessons channel. So I deliberately separate out my lessons. So whatever my lesson is for that week, and I try to put it up on a weekly basis, as in the week of the 7th of September. I usually do this on a Sunday night or a Sunday evening at least, letting the pupils know what's happening in the coming week. And because I knew I was going to be off, I had organised for that meeting for that particular day. Happened to be a Wednesday, as you can see there. And my colleague was there to make sure that all the pupils were on board. But prior to that, the pupils knew. They knew what was happening that week, because I've put up my learning intentions, what's going to be happening for any given week, and it's all there. So you would hope as senior pupils had done a bit of prep work. So what I was going to be beaming in with shouldn't be a surprise for them. So I've done all the prep work at the back. The pupils knew that I was going to be off, and they knew that I was going to be coming in on this meeting. And so everybody was prepped and everybody knew what was happening there. Again, this is just a little sample of the type of thing that I put up. I like to give them a heads up as to what we're going to be doing that week as best you can, especially in these circumstances. So I've divided it up so everybody's on board, everybody knows what we're going to be dealing with. And as part of delivering it through Teams and Class OneNote, then all my resources I am putting in OneNote. Claire says she puts hers in the team. I put mine in the OneNote so that the pupils can grab them very quickly, put them into their part of the OneNote and make them instantaneously editable. It's more of a footer about if my resources are in the team for the pupils actually to get access and edit it. So the pupils know on a weekly basis where we are, what we're doing. I keep my little Gantt chart because at heart I'm an engineer. I keep my Gantt chart going on a weekly basis, and they know what we'll be learning on any given week, and they'll know, roughly speaking, where the assessment pieces are going to be coming in. You can see it's assessment heavy just now because, well, we don't know what's going to happen next week or the week after in terms of gathering evidence. So we're more on it this year than we've ever been when it comes to actually gathering the evidence. And so the pupils know exactly where we're at. When it comes to the actual getting hold of the notes, all my pupils know that they go to the OneNote, which is part of Teams, and I give them all the notes at the start of the year. So at the start of the academic year, all my pupils get all the notes. I do add to it, absolutely, I add to it, but at least the bulk of the notes are there. So at any given time, on any given day, we know where we're going to go to get hold of a given set of notes. This one just happens to be Drive Systems, and the pupils know that that's where they can go, grab the notes. If they want to, they can copy that into their part of the OneNote and they can edit it. And I'll be showing you some of that in a few slides' time. The issues about being at home, obviously you've got no control over what the pupils are doing, you've got no control over behaviour. That's where I think it's important to have a colleague on board and controlling that side of it, because no matter how good a school we're in, there's always going to be some issues there. Claire mentioned earlier about the tech issues. When I was involved with this one, which was just last week, 2 weeks ago, time's an illusion right now, 2 weeks ago it was, when I started to talk, I could hear a kerfuffle in the background, and apparently I was sounding like Mickey Mouse. There is a tech issue with Teams that every now and again, somebody coming in to talk, their sound gets scrambled, and there's a sort of a comedy Mickey Mouse sound. That's not unusual. This is happening on quite a lot of team meetings that we're having, and the fix is come out and go back in. And so I could hear the giggling in the background, and my colleague came on and said, "You're sounding like Mickey Mouse, Mr. Surgey." So I just had to exit out and go back in, and within a few seconds it was fixed. That has not ever failed as a fix, so just be aware if you are using a particular bits of software, what are the tech issues that you might have. One of the things that I did have at home and still do have at home is a visualizer, and this is massively handy when you're doing what we're doing, the physics, the maths, the engineering, science. If you're having to step pupils through a particular new piece of learning, then I'm not a big fan at the minute of inking because I haven't got my head around it yet. So I've got a bit of paper, I've got this visualizer here which sits, and I can flip my screen very quickly to show the pupils, and I can step them through line by line this particular piece of physics and maths. We're understanding torque and power in this particular one. And my colleague has that shown on our smart board, but the pupils also see it on their device. All the pupils in our classes have their own devices. They can bring their own devices, or they can use the council's devices. Either way, through Teams, they're getting to see this particular view of what it is that I'm doing. So this has been a big bonus as well for me. And that is what the pupils are looking at, actually. That's my little bit of paper and me commentating as I walk them through the theory behind what we're trying to do in terms of the forces on a pulley in this particular instance here. Of course, once this is done, I can do a screenshot and I can put it up into the OneNote. I've also got the ability to record this session. I didn't, but I have that ability that I can click a little record button and piece of software that I have, and this can get recorded and put up later on for the pupils to actually view in their own time. As I said, I prefer to use OneNote as a repository for all my work because the pupils can grab it, they can export it into their piece of OneNote. That makes it instantaneously editable. This is just an example of one of my higher pupils who much prefers to ink using her iPad. And as she's inking, I can see that connectivity notwithstanding almost live, and I can give her feedback if there is the need for it there and then. This nobody else can see, only I can see it. This would never put up on the screen when I was doing my live broadcast to the class. The live broadcast in and of itself lasted maybe 15 minutes of input from myself. We then switched off the broadcast, but I stayed live, if you like, and the pupils could ask me questions in the chat function, or they could send me an email because we were connected by email as well, and it comes up on my Glow email. And if they wanted me to help them with a particular problem, they would go to their part of the OneNote and we could have a wee chat over the OneNote. An alternative method of someone let me see their work is this particular pupil who has done the work in a jotter, which is absolutely fine and dandy, but I'm insisting that they take a quick photograph and stick it up so I can see. So again, there's no issue about any other pupil seeing the work. It's going into their part of the OneNote that only I can see. So this is a screen grab of that particular pupil's OneNote and how she, in this case, has put that up. And as you can see, I can give her some feedback there and then, or later on in the evening, as it was in this particular case. Just another example of a pupil giving me some work that they're wanting me to comment on. This was done through Teams. So that's another alternative. I have created for this particular piece of work an assignment within Teams. It is just classwork at this minute in time. But if I want the pupils to share stuff with me, I can do it through the OneNote, their personal section, or I can create an assignment in Teams and they can upload a photograph to let me see how they're doing. And within the chat function, or rather the feedback function, should I say, in Teams, I can give them feedback on how they've done with that particular piece of work. In terms of the presentation, that's it done. Tech issues are the big thing. Lack of broadband or ineffective broadband from home into school or in school. Right now we have issues where if we have a number of pupils all online at the same time, the broadband drops and some pupils can't load their work, and that's always an issue until we can get much better broadband. But yeah, it is different. You don't have that immediacy. You don't have that connection, that human connection, because we are doing it over these electronic devices. But in terms of where we were even a year ago, we are massively further ahead than we were even a year ago. And it has made my job a lot easier. It's given me the advantage of, if I'm having to be at home, I can at least beam into the school, as it were, and give my pupils my take on the work, and they can feed back to me in a number of different formats: Glow email, the OneNote, the chat function, or even through Teams. So that's me, Brian. I am done with that part of my presentation.